SMTN.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network, link 245. I am your never prepared, but somehow still here, 9-something years later, host Spencer Presley. Joining me is a very, 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 very special guest, and that is Ryan Colt. I assume the last name is Levi, but I'll probably butcher it anyway.
Oh, don't worry. Everyone actually says it slightly differently, and I kind of enjoy all the variety now.
You have like a devilishly simple name. It's like 3-4-letter words. It's like how Ryan, check, Colt, check. And then like you could just tell me right now, it's like, oh no, it's Levy. Levile.
I love devilishly simple. I'm gonna steal that.
Just put that on like a business card with no context.
Yeah, devilishly simple. They'll be like, what does that even... What?
So yes, please teach me and all the other simpletons out there. How do we say your name, and who the heck are you?
Well, it's funny. I say Levy, Ryan Colt Levy. But I've heard it all kinds of ways, and as long as you don't call me late for dinner, right? That's what they say.
Why is it that people are like that about their name? Like, well, I say it this way. It's like, no, it's your name. So no one's going to come out there and be like, I also have Levy, and I pronounce it this way. I think he should say it this way.
No, you know what it is for me? It's more the idea of I don't want other people to feel like they have to walk on eggshells if they say it wrong. Because it's... Like, yeah, sure, it's a name, it's part of your identity, but it's not like them pronouncing it one way is going to make a difference. Like, I've actually been a fan. It's like, you ever watch a film? You know what? You don't even have to talk about watching a film. Like, you ever have a conversation with someone who is from, whether it's another country or, even another state, and they just phrase things slightly differently? It's like... that stuff just kind of, I feel like it's more of a unique to the speaker. There are obviously large-scale, offensive things that people can do with people's names by accident and all that, but nobody really butchers it in that way. The worst that, I find is the first name thing, because I have one of those names where, I used to work in food service and coffee shops and stuff like that, so... It would be a lot of like, oh, yeah, what's your name, man? And I'd be like, oh, it's Ryan. They'd be like, cool, thanks, Brian. And I'd be like, oh, what? And they're already out the door, and then I'm forever Brian to them because they'll come back the next time, and that's what they've, burnt into their brain.
Yeah, I'm here for Brian. No, not Ryan. I'm here for Brian.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I don't know that guy. Sorry.
Well, I appreciate you for being here because you have given me one of my favorite things ever of polling people for questions. And it was a great 50-50 split between Facebook, Discord, Twitter, and YouTube. People being like, "Awesome! I haven't gotten to his character yet." So that I almost am like I'm in that fun position of because I joked about it before with Sean of everyone was listening to us talk to Sean before the game was even out, but even then it was like, guys, you're not even going to meet Koshi Mizu until 10 hours in. For you, right. It's I don't even remember how long it was for it, but it was one of those funny things of because we all kind of got to talk about it beforehand, and everyone obviously is going to play it at so many different speeds. It's the chance that the people listening to this have all met your character Khonsu is probably low, but the funniest part about it is, we were talking about before the show started, was this isn't the Kohnsu Power Hour. This is it's the behind the voice actors, but way less professional and way less college students listening in. It's okay, who are you as opposed to who are you playing, which is going to be a little bit more fun. But yeah, just so we can at least say we're kind of being on topic. You are one of the. I was trying to think of what it is because there's it's you are obviously Khonsu. You are in the Egyptian branch of Bethel and all that other fun stuff
Yes,
for it.
he's
But
the head of the Egyptian branch. Yeah.
but for you though, who is this character for you, and how the heck did your journey start of voicing this? I think I've counted at least 20. He has got I think a 20 pack. Like, he is shredded.
Yeah, he definitely. I'm gonna say it's probably not even that he works out. I feel like he just eats really clean, and probably walks a lot. He's got one of those kind of bodies, because his arms aren't like super, huge. He's got that very like he just focuses on those abs.
He does a lot of keto.
And
he doesn't
as
even
they
know it, but he
say,
probably
abs
just
are
does
made in
nothing
the
but
kitchen.
keto.
Yeah, that's just how it works. Man, the journey. This guy's so interesting because like it actually. It really goes back for me personally, like basically, what is it, 4 years ago now when the first announcement trailer dropped, like forever ago, before there was any cast or any like even real footage of the game. I don't even remember. It was like maybe when the Switch first came out.
It was
or like,
it was technically teased in 2017. No, sorry, it was technically teased in 2016 because they basically had announced, all right, we're going to do a 3DS game and we're doing a new HD game, but we can't tell you what it is. And then they showed it off with that teaser trailer when the Switch got like officially revealed in January of 2017. So like this game has been cooking for a long time.
Yeah, and I remember that teaser, and I remember being very excited because I'm just a big fan of Atlas games in general. I think they're like a really, really, really phenomenal developer and team, and like they make such fun, unique, weird games that are also incredibly challenging and rewarding, and I love a good, dense, long experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had been, excuse me, I had a very screamy day today. Apologies. I had been playing through Persona 5 actually recently throughout this whole pandemic for the first time. Yeah, a little in the game if you've heard of it. So I was getting, an Atlas fix, and at this point wasn't quite sure. I think now, it's been a few years and it was cut to like we knew the game was coming out ish within the next like year or two, and I again was just really excited to play it. And I get an email one day, and it's from the studio that I actually hadn't worked with yet, but I had been friendly with, and they'd kind of like been supportive of me as an actor, and they'd send me auditions for other things. So I had read for them for a few different things, and I get this email from them, and they're like, "Hey, we want to bring you in for this project." And they didn't say what it was. It was very, nondescript. It had a fake title.
Do you remember the fake title? Everyone always is like, it was under like Codename X or something, and I'm like, I've got to know what dumb fake title they gave this thing, because
So here's the thing: is I do remember, but I also don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Was it at least like remotely related to the name Shin Megami Tensei? Because like I always think of like Star Wars code names.
They never. No, yeah, it's never anything that you would be able like. You never. It's very much the thing, like, if we are auditioning for these things or getting these titles, like, we have zero clue. Like, it's very much like they don't want anyone to have an inkling of, like, like, unless there's something in the sides that, may tip you off personally, but, like, they don't want it getting out there for all those reasons. And I don't know if they use, code names in different ways, so I don't want to, like, say anything, but, yeah, it was under a very, very, very different name. That didn't even sound like a game or anything. So you're just kind of like, what? Cool. I want to work with these people. Great. I'm in. And I remember going in for my first session, and I walked into the booth, and they had these two monitors set up, and one had a picture on it, and the other had the script on it. So I didn't even know off the bat. I assumed I was going in, because a lot of the times when you do video games, and most of the video games that I've worked on, I've been side characters or NPCs or, guys who don't necessarily have much major bite just yet.
They've been sidelining you just for this. They were warming you up. They were, like, basically, they've just been pre-gaming you for, like, the last, like, however many years of your life.
Well, I've only been doing this professionally since 2019. So I'm very new to this industry still. So understandably, a lot of people don't know you exist, don't know to trust you. You gotta earn your stripes, and you gotta do all the things. So I never expect anything, period. So that was another part of it, is I was going in, just happy to work at all. And I was expecting to just go in and do, ancillary things and kind of like bounce all over. And like for whatever the thing was, I assumed it was like a bunch of NPCs or something. And so yeah, I walk in and I see this like scene set up, and I'm like, am I like am I in the right room kind of thing? And they're like, yeah, we're just gonna get you set up and blah blah blah. And I was like, this is a cutscene, like what's going on? And they're like, oh yeah, this is your character, blah blah blah. And there's like basically an almost completely rendered scene with Khonsu and everybody in it, and I'm like, that's me. And they're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And they're going through all the stuff. And I'm like, and I'm at this point, because I'm looking at the cutscene, I already realize, like, I'm like, is this what I think it is? Like, because I'm starting to put it together, but they actually had to say it. So they're like, yeah, welcome to Shin Megami Tensei. And I was like, a little mini explosion in my brain. And then, you do that thing that I've been really fortunate enough to have to do a few times in my very short career already, which is like immediately put away the inner fanboy.
Oh, I was gonna say become Egyptian, as we all do. Every once in our lifetime, there's a moment we all have to channel our inner Egyptian as not culturally appropriative as possible.
Well, I am a Middle Eastern boy, so it fits at least in enough of a realm that I felt quite honored that I got to portray him for that reason. So it was actually pretty special. And there's so rarely these kinds of opportunities that to actually get to have it, even if I'm not directly Egyptian. I was like, this is special. So I really kind of like, yeah. So I put my inner fanboy away, and I was like, I'm just ready to do the work, just be professional. I can geek out about it after, and went through the motions. And the whole team was absolutely incredible. Everybody was just, they all knew the world and everything already so well that it was just kind of like massaging me through the speed bumps of any questions I had, or approaches that I wanted to go about something. And yeah, Khonsu like really quickly gave off that kind of like sassy trickster kind of vibe. So he immediately was just like super juicy and playful, like to like get into. It was like, oh, I know what to do with this kind of thing.
By the way, do you remember, were you part of the batch who recorded this year or later last year?
I recorded this year. I recorded about 6 months ago.
Okay.
8 months ago.
It all bleeds together.
Yeah, gosh, it all bleeds, especially now. Yeah, it was a while ago at this point that I had recorded. And then they brought me back for like one more session for pickups, like only a couple of months ago, just for like a couple of little things to touch up that they needed to add. But for the most part, it was all done in that first session, and then it was just a matter of like, now I hope the release date actually stays.
I mean, yeah, like the craziest thing about it, especially I think from your perspective, is you have a really interesting role with your character, because you are a main person in the cast, but you're not someone who's necessarily like, you're gonna get like, we talked about earlier, like probably there are people out here listening who might not even have gotten to who your character is, or even really know what the whole Council of Bethel is outside of like that one trailer it's been in.
I've played like about, personally for me, I'm about 35 hours in, and I still haven't even met him.
It's satisfying, but then also, because of what immediately happens after, extremely frustrating. Because I'll never forget, as soon as I like saw the council, it lets you like walk around. There's like it's an amazing backdrop. You can
yeah. I
it's
saw the image of it.
It's a forced thing though, of like you have to talk to all of the members at that council meeting, which I really appreciated because they're all voiced and everything for it. But what was so funny is then like I was like, this is great. I'm soaking in the atmosphere. Immediately died after. So it was one of those things of I then had to go back, talk to everyone else and be like, God, I hope I don't fucking die again. And then after dying 2 more times, then I was able to progress. But it was one of those really funny things, though, of for you, is it weird, like, now that the game's been out almost a week exactly, have you gotten a lot of feedback in terms of people who've, like, really gotten to it as opposed to more of, like, congratulatory, like, yay, it's out? Or, like, do you think it's going to be, like, kind of a delayed reception from people?
It's funny. I mean, nobody's reached out yet because I think a lot of people are still actually just getting the game.
Oh my god! Yeah, shout out to Canada. They're just getting them like today and yesterday. I can't.
Yeah,
I
there's
can't
a
even
lot of
imagine.
people like just starting to play it. I it was funny. We did this signing at a game store here in LA and over the weekend, and a bunch of fans came through, like just amazing, cool and kind people, and there were some folks from Atlas there as well, and so we like did the whole event and everything. And like fans were so awesome, and they knew who I was and had me sign in all the right spots and everything. But I was like, none of these people have even met him yet. This is so funny. They're just being really nice and supportive.
They're like, he's on the box.
Like,
I've got to get his signature.
yeah,
He's
they're
on
we
the
know
box.
you did the thing, so we'll just be nice to this guy. Yeah, and
Have you complained, by the way, yet to Atlas of like why they snubbed you on that steelbook? Like you're on the cover, but they had to like give you like your left elbow on the front of the
dude, it looks
steelbook.
great though, because when you flap that open, I get the back, man.
I will say this. I took a picture, and I've been posting too many things about SMT steelbooks though. But like I have a picture of if you flip the back with the slipcase, and it's just you, the blue fairy, and the dog. It's like now this is the true alternate cover, where it's just the three of them on this weird like alternative adventure.
That might be how I have to store it on just for my mom and everything like that.
It's like, see, Mom, I'm in the middle. I am the cover.
Yeah.
It's all about me.
Yeah.
Don't look at the
This
blue hair
total
guy in the
cat.
back, though.
Now, see, my mom though, she knows I'm too much of a team player to buy that if I went that angle anyway.
See, that's why we need to import you the Japanese one, so then you're equal treatment with everyone else.
Well, it was really funny because after the signing event, the folks from Atlas, kind of came up to me. We were just kind of chatting about stuff, and they again were just so kind and amazing. And they were like, "Yeah, we're so excited for people to meet your character because we love your character, but like we also know that people aren't going to meet him for like 2 weeks because of how much it takes to get to them." And we were just laughing about it. So they're like, "You probably won't even like." Have any kind of interaction with people about it for a couple of weeks. And I was like, that sounds about right. So I'm curious when people do really get around to him in bulk if they have anything to say or not.
I will.
So, it's also one of those things where I feel
amazed
like,
if you're not like the fan favorite out of the council personally for like two reasons. One, there is an extreme bias in the game. And they give you way more screen time than all the other gods, which I'm not sure if you're aware of. Like, I thought that was really, really funny. And the second one, whereas I have a major complaint with your character that I don't think I have with anyone else in the game, that they gave you so much story, and I needed at least 200% of it all to be voiced. Like, because there's such a fun plot line that you're involved in, and I was like, I could have just had this be its own like 5 to 10 hour long thing of it being like part of the main quest. Like, I really, really, really liked that subquest, but like the funniest part about it is, it's so easy to kind of miss because it's not like apparent that, hey, if you do this quest, it unlocks this and this and this and this and this.
Oh, you're gonna have to tell me after this what that is, so I do it.
Yes, it's a really interesting game because not only does it tie in with your character and add a lot more context to the world, it also does this really great thing of you tie into another character that it's been very funny of like people at launch have been like, what the heck happened to this character? They totally disappeared. And it's like, well, if you just don't do this optional side quest, it totally seems like they disappear.
Oh wow, interesting. That's so interesting. Well, I also thought it was really cool that when I after I recorded, I went home and I looked up Khonsu, in the Shin Megami Tensei lore of stuff because I was like, have they been in other games? And I saw that it like they had, but as this like total other redesign and like basically just like as a I'm assuming more just like a character that you capture and fight with and like nowhere near the same kind of
it's basically every Egyptian stereotype of a mummy you could ever imagine. Like that's
right,
what Khonsu's
right.
ever really been.
Right.
Which
So
like I'm
for
glad
me-
we made it a little more contemporary because I think without talking to the character designer, I think they went, let's go Egyptian but like 1995 handsome Brendan Fraser. Let's like combine these two together, and that's what we're really going to go for in terms of the tone here.
I love it. I love the skin tone and everything.
I bet you're just dying to cosplay this now. You're like, all right, like 90% shirtless, all wearing a skirt, giant 50-pound headpiece. It's going to be the most
funny?
expensive outfit.
I'm excited to see other people cosplay them. That, if anything, I'm not someone who as a kid I dressed up, but like I'm not someone to like cosplay in general on the regular or like, I'm doing one for another character that's kind of more for fun.
You're making it sound like Rhodey is this like set like very tight. Like, hey, who knows? I love, by the way, because I feel like I'm bearing the lead because I knew way more people when I was saying I was having you on. They're like, oh yeah, he's this character, and then it was like, oh, but he was also in the My Hero Academia. He was like, is it Rhodey? Was he talking to? I'm like, dude, like I'm bearing the lead. Like, we should be like, when's your Funko Pop coming out? Because clearly they're just they're waiting on all the merchandise for you to just like drink it all in.
Dude, if they ever make one for him, I will buy so many of them that it will be embarrassing.
You can be that voice actor who buys these very common Funko Pops and then sells them with their signature for $50 on your website. You can live the dream.
No, I see. That's the thing, though. I would never want to do that. I would never because so much of it is you want people to enjoy this stuff. And as someone who, like, when I was a kid, I mean, literally most of my life, I was the kid who couldn't afford to go to conventions or get things that I liked because it was all so inaccessible, where it was like, it was just so expensive or so illogically, based around getting it, that for me, it's like, if I can find any way to, one, if people even want to have that kind of interaction with me, then like, my gosh, that's so special. And two, how can I do this that it, actually works in someone's favor? Like, especially if someone, I think like if someone's going to a convention and they've already spent the money to go there, they're probably staying nearby. That's not cheap. They probably have X amount of money that they're going to spend on, one, just surviving off food, in any capacity. And then, they probably have a few places that they want to get to, whether it's booths or artists or people they want to meet. And it's like, there's a certain amount of money that, any human has, period. And way more important is the experience they have than like draining someone of their wallet.
Man, you are too nice. I can't just like sit back here and be like, I'm sure you hear this all the time, because literally every time I ever bring your name up to anyone else, everyone's like, oh yeah, you're just like the best. You are like, be like weirdly nice in terms of like how down to earth and like chill you are. Like, I hope people just tell you that like constantly every day, like how absolutely nice and humble of a guy you are. Because like the sad part is that's so not the norm. And I think there's different levels of it. Like, obviously, I'm being kind of joking and cynical with like the Funko Pop example, but like I'm also one of those people that like, I don't know if it's just, like, the way I've always been as a fan or just how I feel about autographs for most things in general. Like, I have a huge amount of respect for someone like Stan Lee, who did a bajillion conventions. I would never pay Stan Lee $500 for a picture. I'm like, no, I would, like, want to just say hi to Stan Lee and then leave. The idea of, like, I cannot never imagine being in my life of, like, I have to charge like what I would assume is even any amount of money, just like, here, you want a picture of me, I'm gonna like charge you like three figures. And like obviously everyone has their own different finances and stuff for it, but it's one of those things that like everyone, at least I've ever interacted with in terms of like the voice acting community and different stuff like that, it's always been of like, no matter how big of a person you are, whether like you just started out in voice acting or you're Yuri Lowenthal, who's done it for I think 900 years, like you're just the nicest
and
human being possible.
And is still 16.
Oh my god, right? Does that guy ever age? Like, we talk about Paul Rudd, like I don't know if this statement makes sense. I'm convinced Yuri Lowenthal is the Paul Rudd of voice acting.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to say, at least like from like as close as I can get to a non-biased like fan perspective, that is very rare to hear and like super appreciated.
Oh man, I genuinely think though that most of my peers, if not all of the ones that I know at least, really feel the same way, where it's like, because we also grew up fans of all of this stuff first, and as much as any of us are like, oh my god, like I can actually make a living off of this compared to all the other crazy things that I've had to do in my life. Like, there is that balance of trying to understand how to survive doing a crazy career that is, just, you never know what comes next. But there is this element of like we're also completely flabbergasted that people want autographs and stuff, like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those weird things where I can rationalize being on the other side, but now being on this side, I'm confused. Does that make sense?
What was like that first piece that someone brought up to you, and you were like, "Whoa, that's weird. I'm signing this."
Actually, I mean, it's really all been recently because one, like I said, like I started acting in, voice acting specifically in the summer of 2019. So by the time I was even like announcing work, we were basically about to hit the pandemic. So most of my career has like been in this weird isolation from the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So people have really kind of only come to know me digitally until recently. So the first experience I actually had was I did a fan showing and like a fan and friend showing of the My Hero movie a couple of weeks back when it was still at a local theater. And I didn't even really expect that many people to come, if at all, but we almost sold out the screening, and a bunch of fans came like and cosplayed and like brought these like one brought like this amazing bracelet that they made that said Rhodey on it, and yeah, some had me sign like the manga that came for the movie, and like it was surreal. It was like really odd. Like I almost didn't know how to like respond. It was I kept thanking them. I was like, I don't know what to say.
I just want you to get so big that you're going to get weird stuff to sign. Like, I want someone the next time you're at a convention a year from now to just give you a copy of BB and Tina and be like, Ryan, you got to sign my copy of BB and Tina. And you're like, get on over here. That's a diehard Ryan fan right there.
I can't believe you even pulled that out. That is so funny.
Listen, I have a weird history with BB and Tina because BB and Tina was part of this deep dive video that this awesome channel out there called Easy Allies did one day of like,
oh yeah,
why are there so many horse games all made by the same people?
Yeah.
And it was Kyle Bossman and Isla Hink, and they just went through the entire deep dive history of BB and Tina, and it was this huge thing of like, wow, I will. And then once I noticed it, I was like, they're everywhere. You don't know it, but this series is literally everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. I had never heard of it until I worked on the dub of that recent series, and it was so funny because like we just kind of did it, and then I was like, oh, this is like a huge franchise overseas, apparently. It's so funny.
It's like how the Swedes have Asterix and Obelix, like Germany has BB and Tina just blowing it up over there.
Yes. Super, super endearing, though. I was like, this is really charming. Yeah, it's so funny, because like that's the kind of stuff that I actually live for. One of my favorite things that happened recently at that other signing was this dude rolls up to my section of the table, and part of me was still questioning if he knew who I was or if he just saw my name on this specific cast list, because he like has this rolled up poster, and he's like, he goes, I hope you remember who you were in this. And I was like, what? Like to myself, I'm thinking like, what could this possibly be? Because I remember everything. I haven't been working that long,
You've got a 10-year in 2 years.
Yeah, I was like, what could he possibly be talking about? And he rolls it open, and it's a Final Fantasy VII remake poster. And I start cracking up, and I was like, oh, amazing. Like, first off, I'm honored you want me to sign this, because I remember all the voices I did, but like you wouldn't know them. They're just a bunch of NPCs.
Who's your most memorable one? So we've had another person with your same credit. We had Connor Fogarty was also additional voices in that, and he very distinctly remembered he was like the guy selling like chocobo food, like very specifically in Walmart. Do you remember? Is there one character in FF7 you were like, okay, who was that?
I had a few. Yeah, I mean, like it's what they do is like when you go in for NPCs for something like that, you end up playing like 30 characters.
Oh yeah, like you probably noticed when you played Persona 5, if you're not a main character, there's 2 guys and a girl who do every other person in that entire world. Like that entire world, it breaks the reality.
This is almost the opposite, where it's like because of all the different slums, like they brought in.
The VO budget. The VO budget for Square Enix compared to Atlas, that is the definition of apples and oranges for sure.
It was wild. So they, I'm trying to. There were 2 that I remember. One was a food vendor in one of the slums, that like talks about them being a platey or something like that. Mm-hmm. And there was another one of like a guy like fixing a bike. And
I know which one you're talking about.
you like fixing a motorcycle, and like some other guys like telling me did a good job or something like that, and yeah, a bunch of random stuff like that. It was super fun. That was one of my first jobs ever in town.
That would have probably been. I'm guessing you would have probably been, because that game actually famously had a really late recast. They dubbed that game years before it released, and they scrapped like almost all the main work.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they pretty much swapped out the entire 4 main characters. They had Cloud, Barrett, Tifa, and Aerith were all voiced by the original actors, and then Japan was like, cut them out.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's wild. I came in. For what I know, I came in like way towards the end anyway. But there was still like I'm pretty sure we still waited another like year before it came out.
You at least got to celebrate it twice at least. You can say I'm in Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII Integrate. Just don't think about it too hard.
No, I am. They actually brought me back, and I recorded more for it.
There you go. You've earned it. You've earned it more legitimately than even. That's even better then. Perfect.
They did for quite a few of us. They brought a few of us back because some of them actually were like legitimately recurring NPCs, which was a first for me. That was hysterical.
The continuity. You were like, all right, I got to get back to this character.
Yeah, they were like, and they played me voice references. It was really funny. I mean, they have all that stuff, really, really intensely laid out because they have to. But it was really funny because, yeah, they brought me and a few other people back. So that was super cool of them because they don't have to. They could easily just hire other people. So I appreciated that loyalty.
So I've got a couple of questions if you got time for us to blow through these, but this is a very not important question that I've just been dying. Since I played Demon Slayer and I saw your name in the credits, why did they snub Ryan? Why is it just... Why did Ryan get removed from history? What happened? Is this your Tom Clancy alias?
So it turns out it's both. Someone else pointed out to me I'm credited twice.
Yes, even weirder. I forgot about that. You're in there twice, no less. Not even like you're not there. You're there twice.
So they credit my full name, and then they credit me as Colt Levy, right?
Yes.
Ryan Colt or something like that. It's one of the
Your
other.
Your performance was so nice, they had to credit you twice.
I don't know. It's so funny. I don't know why that happened. I've had some funny scenarios with credits. The funniest one, hands down, was the first like really big role that I had. Kind of, for me, doing anything and on something substantial was on a show called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Mm-hmm. And it was during its Toonami run, so it was JoJo's, second it was on TV, on Toonami, all this stuff. And my character had 2 big episodes. And the first episode airs, and I was like so excited, and the credits roll, and somehow... instead of crediting me, they credited Lizzie Freeman twice,
what?
who was playing Trish on the show.
Yeah.
So it said everybody else's credits and all this stuff, and then Squalo was credited with her, and everyone like was so confused. And we like wrote to the studio. We're like, hey, not sure how this happened. And they had to like go back and fix it, and it was weird because the credit was right for the next episode. But they had to like go back for the DVD and everything to like actually fix it. So that on that Toonami,
at least for physical media, we'll know.
But it was one of the funniest things ever. I was like, that's how you know that they're like, yeah, no, this guy, nobody.
You were this close to becoming Willem Dafoe in Spider-Man 1. I'm like, do you know how long I've been? I was here for 2 episodes. You're gonna.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I love that performance.
That stuff especially though. It's at least nice that you're at least not too humble to be like, well, it's okay. They'll get me in the next one. Or just be like, hey, I wasn't in here. What can we do to change this?
Well, it was one of those things where like the first person to actually say something was Lizzie. She took a snapshot of it and like tweeted it Viz Media and was like, yo. So the ball was rolling immediately, and I was like, oh, all right. So
that is a sign of a true friend right there.
Yeah, no, man, our community is awesome. Everyone really looks out for each other, and it's like everyone, sure, like it's entertainment. People have ego, but it's not ego in the way of like, wipe this person off the map in favor of their own success. People really care about each other and root for each other. And like, it's so much more exciting seeing your friends rise up like as you're trying to do the thing versus, trying to make enemies out of competition when everyone should be enjoying working together.
Yeah, like imagine how much less fun something like that, like Game Realm signing event would have been if it was like, oh yeah, well like like this guy got a role that I didn't get. Like, oh man, forget that. Really, it's a lot more. It's more fun
Yeah,
when you can
yeah,
all
it's
celebratory,
way more.
like kind of get into it together. Like it's not like a singular process. It's like everyone kind of coming together because you all made it happen. It's not one person did a good job. Everybody did a good job.
Yeah, well, and that's and it's even like we're just like a piece of the puzzle in a tiny way. Like actors are just one part of it. There's so many people that don't get any kind of credit that should be getting all the credit. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people that it take to make any of these things,
Mm-hmm.
and even down to the things that the sessions that we're involved in. It's like people tend to only focus on us, and it's like, dude, there are engineers, there are voice directors, there are producers on that call. Like we're all working together, making choices and asking questions, and deciding like, is this right for this reason? And everyone has a hand in a thing before it's done because they want it to be good. And it's, I guess that's part of like what, going back to like the how weird it is when people are like, they want your autograph or this or that or whatever, and it's like, I'm grateful, I'm so grateful people are supportive, and I'm like flabbergasted. But it's also that thing of like, so many of us make this thing together that it also almost feels weird because it's like, I don't deserve all the credit, you know?
Yeah, and I mean that's such like that's almost like its own kind of like topic to get into though. Of like I think that's always of like how you kind of like how much attention always gets there, because I always think of certain projects as well of like something that's very easy for a lot of people is to like look at something and it's like, oh, this guy's the big guy and he always kind of gets all the attention, whereas like I always love like having those like odd like side characters that like might really resonate with a lot of fans and stuff like that. It'd be like, I will give someone, if they're whether a main character or like a side character or even just like in it for like 20 minutes, like if it was a good performance and it resonated with people, like that's still gonna stick with them even if that's not like a main person or even like someone who has like top billing.
1000%. Or a lot of the time people will watch a film and they'll admire the way a scene moves, and flows or whatever. They'll be like, that's the greatest scene ever. That director's amazing. And it's like, okay, but what about the cinematographer and the editor? Like what about, like there's like 8 other pieces that like are a reason why that scene is the way the scene is, And I think it's not to blame people, because obviously it's also a matter of like, it's not.
There's a lot of knowledge. Like you can't just be like
job,
you can't just be like, dude, this guy was the DP for like 1914 or whatever. Like, don't you know who this guy is? It's like,
I'm a film nerd, so I'm going to care about
exactly
all the pieces. But it's that funny thing of like, on that same token, that's why I struggle with just being like, yeah, it's awesome that everyone likes this thing. It's all because of me. Because it's not. It's because of all of us, But I do love sharing this stuff with everyone, because like I like even I'm still meeting a lot of these people that I either get to work with or have known like online. Like I'm only just now getting to meet a lot of them in person, and to know that they are equally as like delightful and chill and awesome as they are talented is like the extra reward to it all, because you could be like, oh my god, like you're legitimately so great in this game, and I'm so glad you're a good human, you deserve it.
Yeah, that's just like the best. That's why I was like infinitely jealous of like whenever I saw the pictures from the event last week. It'd be like it looked like somehow a reunion and a family get together all for the first time, and I was very, very jealous.
That's a very good way to put it. That's for sure what it was.
All right, so we got a couple of fan questions, and they're not just asking who the heck are you. So let me know if I'm pushing it too much, but I don't think we have anything too bad. So our first one is by Nemisa Simp, who says, "What was the hardest part of voicing your character?"
The hardest part was, I think, just being confident that the choices that were being made were going to fit in the grand scheme of it all, because the game being so massive and long and expensive and story and this and that and scope, it was like I knew I just had this tiny slice, and even if it plays a big part in the overall story, like I just had to trust that tonally and structurally, like what we did with my performance, like was going to make sense with everything else, and that's knowing the director knows that it's going to work and all that kind of stuff. But, for me, it was like, all right, we're just making these choices and I'm living in this thing for a few hours and having a blast. And I hope people don't then hear it and be like, oh, that guy was way off the mark now.
Were you aware, by the way, when recording that they were going to do a heavy filter on your character?
Yes, because I'm familiar with the games and the franchises and like how that goes. I didn't know how heavy they would go or what we do with it, ultimately. But it's not the kind of thing where you can assume and therefore rely and be like, well, this can carry whatever thing.
Well, no, like I always worry when from like a sound engineering perspective, like it's so easy to like go too much or not enough. And like, thankfully, it struck a really, really good balance. But yeah, like there are a lot of situations where it's like there's a really great performance that's smothered by like warbly effects. Like thankfully that wasn't the case for anyone in this game. But I always like wonder like if you're kind of getting that immediate feedback, or if it's kind of like, well, I gave them the performance. It's up to them to choose how much warble they want to put on it.
Yeah, well, it's not the kind of thing like they weren't putting it on live in the session. It was the thing like I just knew that it was like an in-post thing, and I just trusted that they're in full control of that stuff. Like that's so not in like my wheelhouse of like we don't get saying that anyway. So it's like my job is to just be the best actor I can for that moment and get out of their way.
So kind of similar. Doxson says, "Did you have a favorite part about voicing Khonsu?"
Oh yeah, I mean he is just a party. Like he's so sassy, and I feel like he's considering how every other Bethel head of the Bethel branch operates, and how a lot of the personalities, like there's a lot more of like the straight man, like in a lot of characters, and I feel like he's very kind of like court jestery, and that's just super fun to play with.
Mm-hmm.
The sass was palpable, even when I just saw the still frame when I walked in the booth, I was like, oh, he's sassy.
Now, I thought you'd appreciate this other question. Urameshi Trev says, how did it feel being the panty dropper of the Bethel leaders?
Well, it remains to be seen. I hope people like him. I haven't heard any feedback just yet. But
I will say that I think each Bethel branch has like a different kink, even if you don't know it. Like obviously the Greek one with Zeus, that's like a bear dad dom thing going on there. Like he's got the big 19-foot wide chest, and like you look at Odin, that's like a leather S&M BDSM kind of thing going on. He's got the bird. Who knows what that thing's doing? And then I don't even want to think what the Indian branch is into. Like they probably got some like weird stuff going on over there. Like we got the snake guy and Shiva's hanging out watching.
There's all kinds of,
So, another one, though, is by Zero, and he says, how was it playing a character, how was it playing the character for you with experience kind of with the series beforehand? Did it, like, shape the kind of performance you wanted to give, or was that kind of part of, like, when you were learning about the character shaping that process?
It was way more on the fly because I didn't know what I was doing until I walked in there. So like had I known, I probably would have thought about it a lot more. Like not in the sense that I would have done it differently necessarily, but I just would have like overthought it, I think. In the sense of like, oh, I'm doing a Shin Megami Tensei, like let me go and, rewatch a bunch of videos of like other games and like, when I think really the best thing to do with like any of these kinds of scenarios is to just be in the moment, because even if I went back and did that, this is a new game, it's a new experience, like maybe they want to branch away from XYZ or it's like you could almost sabotage yourself in a way. So and a lot of it for any other job too is we just really trust the director to understand, because their job is not just to direct us in that session, they're directing everybody. So they're the one who understands the context and flavor and tone.
They're not only playing Tetris, they're also making the pieces at the same time.
Yeah, they're basically there to tell you, like, to remind you, like, hey, like, it's like if you're at a salad bar and they're like, we're making a Caesar salad, and you bring them some ingredients that, like, sometimes you'll bring them an ingredient and be like, oh yeah, that actually might taste really good in a Caesar. Or you'll bring them an ingredient and be like, remember, we're making a Caesar salad. And you'll be like, right, got it. And it puts you back in that You know, it's kind of more that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a really abstract way to explain it,
No,
but
clearly Khonsu
you know,
is the blue cheese of this game's Caesar salad. It all makes sense.
you
It all.
get me. You get me. Yeah, you get me. Thank you.
So that was pretty much it for like the big questions and stuff for it. So I figured I might finally let you eat. I'll free you from the podcast shackles. But before that, where the heck can people find you? And I guess where do you want to be found without doxing yourself too much?
Don't come to my home. You can find me on the socials, Twitter at Ryan Colt Levy, Instagram at Ryan Colt. My website is again my full name. Yeah, I tend to hang out on Twitter for the most part, so please do come hang out. And if you get to meet Khonsu anytime soon, I hope he doesn't give you too much of a hard time.
No happy or sad crying, because both could happen. I'm just warning everyone to get the tissues of anger or tissues of sadness ready.
Yes, but you know what? Just remember that ultimately, it's all about that challenge, right?
Oh man, I didn't even think about this. Like, you have a weird thing that like none of the other voice actors I've talked to have gotten to have. That you are in my party. Like, you were like with me, ride or die to the last boss. Like, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, yeah. Because like you were like once I had gotten the chance to like recruit you, it was like, well, clearly I've got to go with this one because like you were very very high level. I think by the time people get to you, you're I think in the 70s to like almost 80s and stuff. So like it's a pretty late game process to get you fused in. But no, yeah, you were very very clutch in terms of helping me to get all the endings.
Oh, that's exciting! Heck yeah! I'll tell you, like that's honestly one of the most. To me, this is one of the most exciting parts. Is, you know, technically being a boss battle, because that's always been a dream of mine. So like literally in the session, I was like, I remember saying out loud, I was like, oh my god, I'm a boss battle. Like it was a moment for me. And then the other realization is like, oh, I'm a playable party member. Like I can play as myself. I can collect myself and roll deep in my party. So you bet your ass I'm gonna get my guy.
Awesome. But yeah, so I will then use this editing magic spot to then tell everyone where all the places they can find us. So now with the magic of editing finally done, knock on wood, we can just say goodbye and actually end this. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, and thank you for having me. This was a blast. You're awesome, and I'm so grateful that you're not only doing this for me and like the immediate cast, but the whole community of anyone that's ever loved any of these games, man. Like you're wonderful. We appreciate you.
I've got to say, like, hearing that, way too much flattery, but thank you so much. But then the other thing is, like, it has been very weird now that the game is out. The amount of just random DMs I've gotten from people, whether it be Facebook or Twitter, of just like, oh man, this is my first game in the series. I just wanted to let you know I picked it up, and it's so great. Like,
oh, that's awesome.
I had this weird moment of like I was talking to a friend of mine because we've been reviewing it. Like, so like we've had the game for almost like a month now at this point. Whereas like I don't think I know anyone who doesn't like this game. Like, I've known so many people who are playing it, and it's just been universal love it. Like, it somehow found a way to live up to the hype. There's no asterisks. It's just, this is a damn good game. Go pick it up when you can. Also, definitely not sponsored, but please sponsor me, Atlas.
Yes, definitely. That makes me so happy, dude. Like, seriously, it's, you know, again, like, it's not like we made this game. Like, I'm just lucky to be a part of it, but it brings me so much joy knowing that it's great and knowing that people are really having a good time with it. And it's like, it's trippy to be part of a legacy, you know, like to be part of something that is really this special that I would have been playing regardless and psyched to play. So this is, quite surreal.
And I think, like, even on other aspects of it, like, honestly, for me, outside of, like, I do this show weekly anyway, so I gotta talk about it, whatever, I love, like, the other facts of, like, that, like, when the cast got announced, I was like, I knew some of you, but I did not know everybody by a long shot.
Yeah,
and
it was... You can be honest, you can be like, I don't know most of these motherfuckers.
Well, what was so nice, though, is, like, it was such a great excuse to finally get all of you guys on the show, and are still getting them all on there, and it's just been so nice for just, like, meeting new people, and, like, what I love most about when an interview's done is not when I've gotten a chance to talk to them, is then people listening to the show the next day they are live, and then being like, oh my god, like this person's great, or like I had no idea this person was so nice or whatever for it, because like it's not like anyone's like, oh, they're great in the game, and then you hear them like, I'm not feeling them in real life. It's everyone's like, okay, now I now need to become a stan for you. We're gonna help you.
I mean, I get it, because even getting to meet everybody at the signing the other day, like I've known out of everyone that I've been in the game with, like oddly enough, I've actually known everybody for a pretty long time, mostly digitally. Like Sissy and I have been really close friends. That was the first time we got to meet in person, and she's like a sister to me. Chris Hackney I've actually known. He was one of the first people I met when I first started working out here, but we'd only like in passing, like bumped into each other. Who else did I know beforehand? Ben, I knew beforehand digitally, who was always super supportive. Deva, super, like, basically like my sister again. And I knew Casey from the before times as well. We were actually, like, friends before that. And Damon we knew relatively, but, like, not in person. It was a lot of, like, really getting to hang for the first time there. And it was so cool because everyone's so kind and awesome. And, yeah, it makes you really happy that they're winning, like you want to see them succeed.
Mm-hmm. You have a good rest of your night. It was super awesome talking with you.
Awesome. You as well, Bill. Thank you.
See you, man.
Bye.